If you imagine the most perfect summer evening, one that follows a nice warm summer's day, nice and sunny, and this is it. This is as perfect a summer's evening as you're ever likely to get. 10th of August today. We're plunging towards the middle of August already. And it is a glorious evening too, so there isn't a breath of wind. It was quite breezy earlier on when I came here, and I had two hummingbird hawk moths at the opposite end of this field of Phacelia here at the entrance to Lound Wood. And I've had one this evening too. Very active nectaring on the Phacelia just down from where I am now. Promising start. And while I've been mucking about here, I've had two moths fly over, one towards the trees here in Lound Wood that could well have been hummingbird hawk moths. Looked about the right kind of shape and speed of flight, but I was unable to determine their identity. But hopefully in for a really nice trapping session this evening here at Lound Wood. So we've got the ideal conditions. It is a clear sky and a full moon will be rising later on, but whether that comes around the back of the trees of Lound Wood, I don't know. Depends if I'm still here, of course. We're all set and off and running. What a lovely night, and hopefully a night with a decent number of moths. Well, it was 21:15 the start-up time for tonight's session, and if you want to see the results of tonight's session in full, then if you go to the website at www.eakringbirds.com, then there's a direct link to my moth trapping results from the home page, and those moth trapping results are extensive, and every trapping session that Dillis and I ever did going back to 2003 are on the website. Tonight's session has started off quite quietly. An interesting micro has just come in, Scrobipalpa ocellatella. That's a species which for many years was always known as a coastal species in the UK, and then a few years ago it seemed to go completely balmy and appeared in massive numbers, and those massive numbers included sites inland as well that recorded their first records of the moth. It's a species which I record annually now, have done for the last few years since it first appeared in Nottinghamshire, and there is one knocking about on the light somewhere. It's quite a well marked gelishid actually. It's a very nicely marked moth indeed, although conditions and wear can make specimens appear quite variable, but it's quite easy to identify, to be honest. So that's a nice one to get. I have a feeling we may get one or two more. It's commonly known as the beet moth because the larvae mine the leaves of sugar beet, none of which there's any around the Eakring area this year. But apart from that, it's generally quiet. Vines rustic is probably the most notable, but that's a moth that has increased in Nottinghamshire over the last sort of decade. It used to be quite notable and a graded species in Nottinghamshire, but it ceased to be graded a number of years ago and flies in 2 broods and is usually found in small numbers in any sort of trapping session. So we await the main influx of moths, which, going by the dark end of the sky, won't be too far away. Once they're fed up and mated, they will start to turn up at the light. What we get, I haven't got a clue really, to be honest. I've not researched, I don't anymore. One time a day I used to look through the books and say, yeah, that's possible and that's possible, we could get one of them. But I've not done that for many years. I just wait and see what turns up, because as we all know, moths can't read and they can't read books, so they don't know when they're going to come. It's nice to see one of these. You will always get lots of different beetles if you trap over a sheet like this. You get lots of all sorts, but it's surprising what turns up. But I didn't expect one of these to be plodding across the sheet, and thankfully it's paused. It must be out of breath. Fabulous things. And the larvae, of course, live in dead wood, producing a very large grub-like larva. And then ultimately, this equally impressive beetle, who I think is ready to make a run for it. Here he goes. That's a sprint for a lesser stag beetle. But what an impressive thing. An absolute beauty. We'll let him go. He'll be tired out now. He'll have to rest for 20 minutes. It was a very good trapping session. Nice range of species, just approaching 40 species, so that's good in it's probably just over an hour. I've no idea of the time, but some nice species have turned up actually, and 2 nice black and white ones in the form of black archers, which is a moth we've seen a number of times on this channel. Another male with those ridiculously feathered antennae, but still nice to see, and we're getting towards the end of the flight period for black archers, so maybe the one that's knocking around here might be the last one that we see of 2025. But there's another black and white moth which has appeared somewhere. I don't know whether it's still here, and it's a micro moth, and it's Ipsilofa sequela, and it's a really beautiful black and white moth. Black markings of various sizes and shapes on a white background. The moth can sometimes be found during the day if you look for it on the trunks of oak trees, and they can be oak trees in woodland or in open fields. It's a nice one to look for during the day when you're out and about. So nice to see one of those come in. Other species we've had in, Neocochalis hybridella, which we recorded new to the Eakring area only a couple of weeks ago, and that's an absolute beauty too when it's fresh. And in terms of other species, Eudemis profundana is a nice micro moth. And in terms of macro moths which have turned up, there's a poplar hawk moth knocking around somewhere. Orange swift is new for the year, and this will be the last of the swifts that will be on the wing now. It's the only swift that is on the wing. And so a nice session, just starting to get a few underwings in various colours. There's a number of copper underwings knocking about and coming in, and also yellow underwings too. Narrow broad bordered yellow underwing, and there's been one broad bordered yellow underwing and a large yellow underwing too. Maybe there will be a lot more of those in the next hour or so. Either way, it's cup of tea time for me. And here's that poplar hawk that I mentioned earlier on. It had been hiding somewhere, I think in the vegetation, but it's now turned out and is gracing us with its presence. Never really caught large numbers of poplar hawk moths here at Eakring. So nice to always get one. It's always nice to get a hawk moth, and everybody loves a hawk moth. Well, this trapping session continues to impress and surprise, although, to be honest, it seems quite routine and run-of-the-mill for the majority of the time, but it's surprising how all of a sudden a moth arrives, or you find a moth that's been sat on the sheet for probably 20 minutes or so, and you never even realise it was there, and that moth changes everything. And the moth in question was a leased carpet, a small diminutive carpet, which is a new species for the Eakring area, so I'm well pleased with that. We're over 710 now, if I remember right, so nice to have a new addition. And then flushed with that success, while continuing to look around the light, on the side of the box was one of these. You can't see it much there, but it's a small mottled willow, which is a rare migrant, especially in Nottinghamshire and in many other Midlands counties. If you're in a landlocked county and you catch small mottled willow, you should be chuffed, because they don't come along very often. And indeed, they don't come very often in terms of my trapping history. I have to go back to 2006, to this very spot actually, where Dillis and I were trapping. Dillis netted a moth and brought it to me. Do you know what this is? No, I did. I'd never seen one before, but I knew instantly what it was, because they have quite an unusual, different resting posture. Even though they're noctuids, they are quite different at rest. And I knew that it was a small mottled willow. We were both equally chuffed, as am I, when I managed to pot this one up. And then I managed to pot up another one, which was sat at the base of the light on the sheet. Two small mottled willows within the space of a couple of minutes arriving at the light. I was hoping for this kind of migrant to drop in. I didn't expect two to drop in. There's been a few records in Nottinghamshire in the last week or so, so nice to add two more to that collection. And nice to double my tally of small mottled willows. So these are going home to be photographed and then will be released afterwards. But I'm chuffed with these, absolutely chuffed. Oh, we've just gone midnight, coming up for a cup of tea time. I probably would have packed up now, being quite happy with the moths that I've got, but I'm going to give it a bit longer. I have to, really, with having small mottled willows arrive, to diamondback moth in as well, which obviously aren't in the same rarity category as a migrant as small mottled willow. But we never know just what could drop in. It's cooled down a little bit. I mean, yeah, I don't have a jumper on, but it just feels a little cooler than it has done all night, but it's still registering as 16 centigrade on the thermometer there. And moths are coming in, as you can see, as the brimstone comes in. Lots of brimstones tonight. But a very pleasing session so far. Will anything else come in? You never know. But definitely a cup of tea time. It's surprising because 1 minute it's busy and then it sort of dies down a little bit and then it gets busy again. I was thinking of packing up actually about 5 minutes ago, and I still don't know what to do. You're always tempted to carry on that little bit extra just in case something drops in, but if something is on the way to drop into this light, then it's running late and is a few miles away yet. But you never know. It's one of those sessions that you just never know. The small mottled willows were unexpected, and the leaf carpet was unexpected, and they're clearly the moths of this trapping session this evening. But as always, it's just nice to be out. I looked forward to coming out tonight, and then the drive here on what was an absolutely beautiful evening, a lovely sunset. Get here, hummingbird, hawk moth feeding in the phacelia at the side of where I was going to put the trap, and then a nice night's trapping. I have had white point as well. Whether that's still classed as a migrant now, it's certainly established in Nottinghamshire. And nice to get a record here. And then say the 2 small mottled willow and 2 diamondback moths as well. But as always, it's just the getting out. It's funny sometimes because occasionally you can have a hunch, or in this instance for me it was an inkling. I tend to have inklings. I think it's an age thing, to be honest, with blokes. But I had an inkling that if I stopped, something else could drop in. Something particularly unusual, rare even. And it has. Had this been 2022 or before, I would be doing cartwheels and handstands and forward rolls and all sorts. Because in this pot here is a Duixplusia. It's not the best of specimens, I can tell you that, but that's what it is. And say a few years ago this was unknown in Nottinghamshire, but it had a brilliant year. There was a huge influx of Duixplusias into the UK, and Nottinghamshire benefited too. But the surprising thing is that since 2022, when I trapped one in the garden and I think I had a couple to lure, I've since recorded it again. I recorded it last year and I've recorded it several times this year. It's obviously breeding in the Wartop area, and I know that because not too far away from me, probably only 1/4 mile, half a mile at the most, Dave Morton has recorded this species for the last 3 years, the same as I have at his Market Wartop garden. Occasionally other people in Nottinghamshire turn it up, but it's certainly breeding in the Market Wartop area. Maybe now it's breeding in the Eakring area because it's a new species, of course, for the Eakring area. Technically, it's a migrant. Whether this one's a migrant or not, I don't know. Or just a wandering local. But to think that just a few years ago, if someone had mentioned to me, or I had mentioned to others, that Duixplusia would be breeding in Nottinghamshire within a couple of years, they'd have thought I was even more daft than I really am. But here it is, and now it's on the Eakring list. The question arises now, do I wait to see if I have any more inklings this evening? I hate decisions. But perhaps I ought to wait and see. Well, it's 1 o'clock and time to pack up. It's been a fabulous session. I can't believe 2 brilliant new species for the Eakring area in the form of least carpet and Duix pelusia, plus migrants also in form of small mottled willow, not 1 but 2 no less, and white point too. How the face of moth trapping has changed, at least here in Nottinghamshire, with the arrival of exciting new species. So, time to pack up and head home.